And just a moment more here. Okay, and pop out chat. And badang. Good evening. Sorry about the earlier show not working. I was having my internet go in and out, and yes, I kind of had a significant haircut here, uh, and well, I guess yes, that's a cat, Carlton. What's going to happen is right now we're going to continue. We're going to finish off the figure from last week that I had to call a hold to a little earlier than I expected. And sorry about that yawn too. For those of you who are watching this after the fact, don't forget the whole like, subscribe, and bell icon down there, and any cubic photon for miniatures. It's outstanding. Okay, I'm putting you back down on the ground, Fuzzy. Go on. Go on, buddy. Now, couple things real quick. The Barbarian from the other day. Got him printed up. As you can see, he printed real nicely. This is going to be on the battle map next to the player playing the Barbarian, the Dragonborn Barbarian. But next to his character will be this one. Yes. Basically, each one of the figures that I'm making for the Saturday game this time, we're also going to print out a double-sized version to place next to the character sheet, so it's pretty, And hello, Ben! Now, right now, I currently have the Warforged Monk printing. When I went back in to finish it, I realized I did not like how the Carlton. I did not like how the original pose was, and he also ended up being a bit too stocky for what I wanted for my Warforged. So I'm putting you back on the ground for a ball. Yes. Carlton, what are you doing? How does my arm taste? Okay. Down you go. Shoot. Okay. Anyway, I redesigned him. And basically what I ended up with, let me go ahead and get into it. The redesigned Warforged Monk. And it looks like this. He's a lot lankier than the earlier version. Let's get a little bit easier to see. Hello, Mike. Yeah, that is how the Warforged Monk ended up. Gave him a top knot, gave him a necklace of beads, changed the pose to be a bit more dynamic, and actually wrinkled up the clothing, give it some shape to the loincloth, and lowered the boots down to the mid-cap. And like I said, a lot thinner and a lot a lot lanky, a lot more dynamic pose. Well, now, like I said, today's broadcast, it's not going to take as long as one from scratch. I'm going to be finishing up the Patreon sculpt from last Sunday night, and what I'm going to do is after I do the sculpt, we're going to do just some random question and answer while I also work on adding to my belt stuff. Insert mesh brush. Now what that means is I'll be loading in other OBJs and making them additional options on an insert mesh brush for belt pouches, bags, moving the backpack there, a dagger that'll fit on the belt. So you can put it wherever you want on the belt in any direction. Yeah. But we're gonna start by we're gonna go ahead and go into ZBrush, and we're going to load the storage. 30109 3D printing home meshes pre-sculpt Patreon new Arcane Archer body, and bing, there we go. I'm gonna pull him up. Now you'll notice that he's mostly done, but his hair is still just a hood. His shirt isn't very wrinkled, and neither is the below the shirt. His hands are still quite basic. Let's go ahead and start with the hands, because it's always a good thing to have the best looking hands that we can. I will note that I have started work on a new base mesh. This new base mesh will not be available, at least not anytime soon, to my Patreon supporters. They will still get this mesh, because until I actually finish doing things to make it have all the necessary races, it'll be just a temporary thing and something that I'm still working on. But one of the things that'll have is the fingers will be more realistically posable, meaning it will automatically have knuckles and that didn't help. Sorry about that. Alright. Go to time real quick, and then I'll get into sculpting in those fingers. Excuse me. Now, the way the hands are currently, they end up looking like Muppet hands when posed. So what we're going to do, we need to add in the knuckles and straighten out the joints of the fingers. So, we add on 2, 3, 4. Slight curve to the hand, the way the real hand has a slight curve to it, but the knuckles are exaggerated from what they are in reality. And then we're just going to draw on what's basically the tendons on the back of the hand. And again, exaggerated from what they are realistically, because we want them to be visible and printable. And even if they don't show on a FDM printer, they give shape to the masses of the hand. So now that knuckle, there, and here, and we just swoop over each knuckle Okay, and there's our hand. With that, just doing that, especially from a distance, the hand looks so much more real. We really got to do that to that hand. So what we're going to do, we need to smooth this out right here. We're going to dig in with the slash brush. Oh, there. Got to make sure it remembers this size. Slash brush, we're going to stroke lazy mouse off. And drop that intensity down to about there. We're going to and now we're going to vacuum plate. We're going to add on knuckle, 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 knuckle. Now, this is going to be odd because what we got to do is we got to, on the one hand, make this finger look like it's bending at this knuckle. This finger also, but this finger bending at 2 knuckles and this finger bending at 1. Or, yeah. So, now here, but then here. Now we're gonna smooth that out right here. And we're gonna drop back down to 11 and draw on 1, 2, 3, 4. And then shift and polish. Frame out. My hands are a bit more dynamic now. Now let's go back into the subtool so we can go ahead and affect the sleeves, because that's what's going to be next. Actually, yeah, let's go ahead down here. We're going to go to standard, freehand, and we're going to load in an alpha. Alpha is one I did earlier today. I'm calling it wrinkle test. Alpha, rotate, modify, mid value 50. So what that will do, this will help us be a lot easier drawing on wrinkles. Oh, one thing is I gotta remember that it's always there. And that's all we really need for that. We do also need to add in all the digs on the legs. So let's go ahead and switch to slash 1, 1, 2, 3. Add in some. Come up that way. I'm just going to add in some digging in to help emphasize some of this area right in here. And here, we're going to cut down like that. Okay, now we're going to switch to Z add, change it 15 to an 8. And we're going to add in the sharpness of the wrinkles. And we're going to add in like there and refine this wrinkle. I could probably make a much better alpha for making wrinkles than what I made. This is just something that I slapped together and then I'm refining it by, it doesn't really save me much over what I was doing before, but it does help a little. And, oh. Okay. Frame out again just so we can see. And now we're going to switch to the sleeves. Okay. We're going to add on transparency so we can do this properly. Make sure that, yeah. Okay, so we go back to standard. We're going to increase this a bit. And we're going to make it a little bit smaller. Because this is going to be a little bit more wrinkly, a little bit deeper wrinkles on this underarm area. Alright. Come up, come up. Okay. Okay, and then come in that way. This is mostly dealing with the whole. Oh, Hmm. And that's pretty good. We're going to go ahead back to slash Z sub. We're going to change that 8 to 15 again. And we're going to just draw in sharper divisions between these wrinkles. Apparently Mom's watching one of those. Oh, wrong section of the wrinkle. Mom's watching one of those true crime stories about a uh, so-called psychic who was the one that was actually the murderer. He had apparently guessed at a murder earlier, and he had been right, and he had been trying to consider himself a psychic, but he was losing his reputation because he hadn't done anything since. So he decided to kill someone and then fake being psychic again, and in the process he oh, I found the body through my psychic power. Yeah. Drop that at 8. And add a bit of wrinkle here. The only thing left to do after this will be the hair, and then maybe do some tweaking to the face. Because my face is really, they're really generic. Okay. Up there, there. And turn that off. Go back out. And we're nearly done. As you can see, this is a short little continuation here tonight. Now, we need to do the hair. It's right here. Bing. And we're going to go to geometry. We're going to subdivide it a few times. Lower. Now with the hair, we're going to go ahead and stay with clay buildup as our tool of choice. Because, yeah. And what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and oh, it's coming back. It's just to make sure that we're getting around the ears right there. And if I remember correctly, the person for whom I'm making this wanted a Legolas cut, implying that they wanted braid. Okay. Okay. And then we're going to come around on this side. And then we're going to do just a bit of smoothing. Actually here, just kind of blend it all in. Because we're going to make the grooves and the details with the slash brush. And then here we go. And coming around. The thing to remember about hair is that we're not worried about the individual hairs. We're worried about the clumps that they make. The the locks. I mean, if hair didn't behave this way, if it didn't make locks, we wouldn't have that name. We wouldn't have that word in the English language. Locks of hair. And that's all we're really concerned with when we make these hair sculpts. Because human hair is longer than most animals' fur, or can be. And though I say most, not all, the clumps tend to be a lot more blatant than the clumps in fur. So, we're sitting here and digging deep. Let's go ahead and turn transparency on so that the bow won't be in the way for some of this. And this in. I do have it on. Yes, I do. Okay. Just making sure I had it on ZBrush for y'all. And then. Yeah. Okay. Now let's go ahead and bring this from here. And bring this around. And then we're going to come from here. Okay, now we're going to go switch this to add and drop it back down to 9. Now, in case you're wondering why I just go straight to 9, is because I've been doing this so much that with the scale that we're working with, the size of the brush that I'm used to using, and the scale that we're making the figure for, it's become common that certain brush sizes seem to be the most effective for certain aspects of sculpting. In this case, the hair. Now, if you're if you're sculpting at a different scale, the figure itself, the geometry itself, is a different size. You're going for a different proportion, a different look. Obviously, you're going to need different numbers on these brushes. But this is what works for me. And come down this way. And oh, and coming up this way. And it looks like it's about good. Now we're going to frame it out. Frame. We're going to zoom out a little bit. Now, we can add some more detailing to this. The question being what? This is supposed to be an arcane archer. So, that's why he's standing on a magic circle, why he's got a little potion on his belt, and a really arcane looking bow. A little ornate. Let's add something to the quiver. In fact, to be exact, let's add some gemstones. And to do that, we're going to subtool. We're going to look for the quiver. Where did we put that quiver? Bum, 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 bum. I don't see a quiver there. There's a quiver. And just going to add on. Okay, move. there. Split unmasked parts. I'm going to put one here. Okay. Split unmasked parts. Merge down. Geometry, divide. Okay, just enough for it to be noticeable there's something on there. And this is our Arcane Archer. Oh, as I pull my knee out, and ow. What we're going to do from here is going to use the mouse. We're going to go back to the main body part. I'm going to select here just so we can zoom in. And we're going to go to move. I'm going to shrink the mouse a bit. Reason being is because we want the upper lip to be a little bit longer. And I've discovered that it's a lot easier to paint the upper lip when it's a bit longer than reality. And then we're going to go back to inflate. And make the mouse a little bit smaller. We're going to overinflate the bottom lip a bit. Once again, it's easier to paint. Okay, now we're going to go to /sub 12 and shrink this. And we're going to dig that mouth deeper. And I'm going to smooth this just a little bit. And go back to inflate, and we're going to inflate the upper portion of the lip that's now. Okay, now we're going to frame out. And there's our thing. We got to merge down, always okay. Merge down, and just add everything all together. Now the base, we need to go ahead and divide it a couple times. And then we can go in and merge down. Okay. So the Arcane Archer. Geometry. Go to Dynamesh. And since it's yellow, the switch here is yellow, we control, drag, and it re-dynameshes, closes holes, processes mesh spaces, and turns it into a single solid surface. This case, 1.9 million polygons. Okay, so we go to Z plugin, and we go to Decimation Master. Now, because he's got chainmail and all of these details, we're going to go ahead and make it 75k points, or about 150,000 triangles. Click. And reordering, writing file to disk, reading to Z file, and yay, 75,000 points, 150,000 triangles. And he retains all of the detail of that 1.9 million. Alright, now we're going to go to modify topology, and just in case, we're going to close holes, which actually dropped a few points, and then we're going to weld points. And we have our figure. We're now going to export. This is under Patreon Minis, new Arcane Archer. And then it's going to be Arcane Archer Fig. And just to show you what it looks like, let's go ahead, turn on Force Perspective, and let's just turntable it. Bing, there we go. So now we're going to pop back here. And hello, Michael. Welcome. I see you made it. Hello. So we have Ben, Mike Matthews, and Michael Campbell here that are actually watching besides me, although Ben might not be here anymore. No furball. Now, what we're going to do, as you saw, I've already saved out the file. Normally, after the show is over, what I'll do is I'll take it into 3D Studio Max. I'll double check to make sure that the file is fully watertight and resave it out as a STL file. But for right now, because we're going to be, we've got another hour and a half of who knows what, I'm probably just going to go ahead. I'm going to restart ZBrush from scratch so I can load in and be working on those belt stuffs. Okay. Now I've got a few things already as props in that studio that might be better off as part of a insert mesh brush. I mean, I've got a horn that goes on the hip. I've got the dagger on the hip. That sort of thing. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to start by loading those in DAZ Studio and then exporting them out again as OBJ so I can bring it into ZBrush and be pounced on by Carlton again. Do you mind? You have no idea how much this furball's purring right now. Yes, you. Poke. 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 Yes. Ugh. Well, he's not loud. My cats are not loud for anything they do. Not purring, not meowing, but they're very insistent. I mean, you see him. Fuzzball. Hey. Hey, insane little fuzzbutt. That's not what I meant. I'm trying to tell you that I'm getting ready to put you on the ground. Okay, fuzzbutt makes this. You're going on the floor, okay? No, no, no. No. Okay. That kitten is 7 years old. But, now, the thing about the insert mesh brush in ZBrush, I do not know if there's an equivalent in Sculptress or in, well, I guess the only other actual sculpting tool that's not part of a modeling tool to begin with would be Mudbox, but Mudbox isn't exactly a popular tool. It kind of lost the battle to ZBrush many years ago. So let me go ahead and pop over. This is, of course, Death Studio. Now, one of the things that we're going to do is we're going to load in the hit quiver frame. And parameters. We're going to rotate it 45 degrees on the Z. Oh, negative 45. So that it's vertical. Export. We're going to call this under Broadcast Miniatures new folder, new IMM stuff. And this is just simply going to be hip quiver. Accept. And we're going to content library. Besides the quiver, we have it's arming sword. We don't need arming swords. Backpack heavy. That'll do. And this is going to be Y rotated 180. You'll see why in a minute. That's a backpack. File. Export. Backpack heavy. Accept. Delete. Backpack light. Y rotate 180. This is for just a simple backpack if you don't need the bedroll and the other stuff. Export backpack. To be fair, the backpacks that I'm adding in are not so much for when you actually load it in as much as, well, you're already mostly done with the figure and you realize, hey, this character has a pretty large pack that he's always carrying around. He's got a haversack as part of his usual equipment. So we need to slap that on there, but it's already after we've already posed it and everything. So that's when we load that one in. Okay. A hip dagger. This one is parameters. X rotate negative 45. No. Negative 35. No. Negative 38. Yeah. Z rotate. There and oh. Now let's do it this way. Now what we're going to do, just because we're going to load in another hip dagger, but this one is going to be hidden, I'm going to parent this to here. That way we can rotate it like that. Okay. Okay, there we go. Let's bring this down and here. And we're going to export that. Belt dagger. Accept. We're going to delete both of these. Now, content library. We now have the hip horn. Parameters 0 to 8. This horn can either be a drinking horn or a combat horn. We're going to file, export, hip horn. Except it all depends on how you got it set up. Like this right now is very clearly a combat horn, you know. Now, besides the hip horn, we now have a hip sword, but that's a bit more difficult. We're going to make a few other things. But for right now, that's all we needed to do. So bring it to ZBrush. We're going to import meshes, pre-sculpt minis, broadcast miniatures, new IMM stuff. And we're going to load in the backpack. And we're going to draw it. Edit. And now we're going to go down to polygroups, auto groups. I'm going to select that. And then we're going to masking inverse. Now the reason we did this is because we're now going to use the scale tool to make it a little bit wider. Oh, a little bit wider. Okay. Just to make that strap a bit wider, a bit more blatant. We're also going to move it out. That way, we're going to scale it just a wee bit. Like that. Once again, to make it a bit more blatant. Okay, there's our backpack. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to go to the insert bell stuff. We're going to create insert mesh, append. Okay, and now we have the backpack heavy. Now we're going to import backpack light. And we're going to do something similar here. We're going to go ahead and scale it that way. Scale it this way and bring it back a bit until it's blended in. Okay. And we're going to click on the brush, go down to create insert mesh brush and append. Okay. Okay, now we have our pouch, potion, bag, backpack heavy, backpack light. We're going to import belt dagger frame. Geometry, position, we're going to make sure that this goes to 0, 0, 0 to make sure it's centered. And another thing we're going to do is, because of some problems that I've had with this thing in the past, I'm going to scale it this way a good bit, make it thicker. Because it had problems printing because it is a little small. And then we're going to create insert mesh, append. Okay. Now we're going to import hip horn. Once again, move the positions to 0, and create insert mesh, append. Okay. And then we're going to import hip quiver. 0, 0, 0. Frame. Zoom out. And create insert mesh, append. Okay. Now, we just added 5 more things to put on the belt, or the back. Now, straps for these things would have to be sculpted directly onto the figure because they would be form-fitting. Now, can you all think of anything else that we can add to the hips, to the belt, to the back? That would be common enough